Hey everybody, Mike here. It's been a long time since I've done a video for my channel. And really the only difference is I've gotten fatter. But hey, that's all right. There's more of me to love. So the inspiration for doing the video tonight is I just got back from seeing a fantastic show in Indianapolis. Went to see a legend. Well, they never really experienced the success that their peers did, but well-schooled metalheads will probably be familiar with them and their catalog. I'm talking about a band that was established in 1982, I believe 1982, in Chicago, and they were labeled as a technical tech thrash, which I don't, not sure how they ever got that label. I mean, I think it was a self-imposed label, but I never really thought of their sound as being tech thrash, more of like a power metal that kind of nestled somewhere in between Metal Church and early Metallica. But anyway, I'm talking about the band Wrath. So their catalog is not all that extensive. I believe they released 3 studio albums back in the day, and then they released a self-released album in 2014. But most recently, they were just signed. I believe one of the first acts to be signed by Dave Elfson's rejuvenated Combat label, and the only thing I'm not going to show you, because I don't have it in physical CD, I have a digital copy of it, is that newest release called Rage. If you haven't heard of it or familiar with it, check it out. Most of the tracks are on YouTube. There's some teaser videos. And on the Wrath YouTube channel, there's some great live videos, because, man, they were fantastic live. So I just want to show you real quick stuff that I own from the band, and goes way back into my catalog. I mean, I remember having this stuff a long time ago. Thing was, until I heard about this show being promoted a few months ago, I really hadn't listened to a lot of their stuff. I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't really get into them as much as I did the other bigger bands of the 80s, and the couple of things that I had just really kind of sat dormant. Then in preparation for the show, I got them out, started listening to them, and wow, I really missed out on some great music over the years, because a couple of these deeper releases are really good. So I want to show you what I have. Their debut album, I believe it kind of a flip-flop thing. They kind of came out on an underground label with their debut, and then they got signed to Medusa, and they released their second album, and then their debut was re-released on Medusa. But anyway, I'm going to go in sequence of how they were recorded. And the first one I'm going to show is this, Fit of Anger. And I want to show that the back is pretty. I'm going to take it out of the jewel case. The jewel case is busted up, but everything else is pretty cool. This is an original, I believe it's a 1986 pressing from Medusa. It is a cutout. It's got a little die cut in there, but it's pretty cool. I don't know if you can see it real well, but I did get 3 of the 5 original members to autograph it for me tonight. Scott Nyquist on lead guitar, Gary Modica, I believe you say it Modica. That's how I'm going to say it, because I think that's how it should be, or how it sounds. On bass, fantastic bass player. He really delivers a good low end. And Gary Glowitzer, again, I hope that's how you say it. Anyway, he's really, I joked with him tonight that he could have at least had the decency to look like he's aged over the last 30 plus years, because he really looks just about exactly like he does in this album, or in this photo here. So anyway, this is Fit of Anger. like I said, it kind of it's got a sound that nestles itself into. There are some speedy elements, but it's never really reaches what I'd think pure thrash. But really good power metal. If you like Metal Church, because it's kind of crunchy, but not real progressive like say, a Fate's Warning or something like that. Yeah, I really good U.S. power metal. And that was Fit of Anger. So their second album was a little more popular in or I guess it's a little more of a cult following. If you look for it, you'll see a lot of people really loved this record and speak very highly of it. I never owned it until tonight. I bought a remaster or a reissued version of it. I think it's reissued on Stormspell Records. But again, this came out on Medusa also. And this is Nothing to Fear. There's the back of it. It's pretty cool band photo there. The only thing, it doesn't have the lyrics, and lyrics would have been very helpful because Gary Golitzer, Golitzer, pretty good dude. But vocally on this album, one of the kind of, I don't necessarily complaints, but most people either dug it or didn't dig it with his vocal style, and it's a little bit different. In fact, over the course of the releases that he's been on, his vocal delivery is really kind of, it changes. But high-pitched, howly, screamy kind of stuff on here, that was kind of a earmark of some of the old power metal releases of the day that you're starting to see in bands like most notably, forgive me, I'm old and forget things. I wanted to say for whatever, Enforcer was coming to mind, but I don't necessarily think that his vocal style is like that. Evil Invaders, that was the band that I was looking for. Evil Invaders. He's got that kind of squealy, high-pitched vocal delivery. I can understand if some people aren't a really fan of it. I think it's cool in some parts. It doesn't really take away anything from the music. But this release, Nothing to Fear, they kind of sped up and were leaning a little bit more toward thrash, but still didn't reach that breakneck speed. Anyway, a really great record, and I'm very happy to have picked this up tonight. And then I've had this cassette for really. I've always recognized this from my collection because I think this album cover is one of my favorite album covers. And it's really, I think it's cool. Pretty simplistic, and it's funny. I spoke with the Scott Nyquist about this album cover, and it was really, and no one ever really in the band thought that it would ever happen. I mean, they found this little prop and sent it to the record label, and the record label took it, made an album cover out of it, and it's really kind of creepy. But I think that's what I remember most about this cassette. I remember seeing it in the store thinking, man, that looks really creepy and heavy. And then again, for whatever reason, I guess maybe in the day compared to like Slayer, Metallica, your Anthrax, Testament, Exodus, I was kind of maybe anticipating something like that, and then it wasn't. It was a little bit different. But this album had a new singer on it. Gary Glowitzer had left the band. Let me show it to you. Let me show it to you. This is Insane Society. I don't know if you can see that there. It's got that creepy doll face. I don't show. I mean, this might be the very first cassette that I've ever showed, and I've got bunches of cassettes that I've kept over the years. I tried to end up getting everything on CD that I had on cassette, but a good picture of the band there. Again, Restless / Medusa label. But this was stylistically the band kind of trying to figure out, I think, where they kind of fit in. They maintained that more traditional power metal kind of sound, like Metal Church, Liege Lord, if you remember Liege Lord. I feel like at some points in these albums, you could maybe even have like a Laz Rocket comparison, although I think Laz Rocket really had the moshy thrash part down. When Laz Rocket, I thought, was at the pinnacle of their success, I feel like they were really listening to a lot of Anthrax, and they had that kind of influence in their music. But Laz Rocket is a band that I will mention frequently as one of my favorite and most underappreciated metal bands. But I think you could even put Wrath kind of in that same category. When before Laz Rocket kind of had the more kind of West Coast kind of thrash sound to it. But on Insane Society, a couple of the tracks, especially the title track, which is one of the band's best songs, had a real heavy Testament vibe to it. And the new singer, I can't think of his name. Something you can research if you're that interested. But he even had a Chuck Billy kind of a timbre to his vocal delivery, and the riffs were very bass, bouncy, kind of that West Coast Testament style of riffing. Again, a really good record. I don't listen to a lot of my cassettes very frequently, just because I don't have many players that play them anymore. But and this one's hard to find reissued on CD, but that'll be on my list to look at. And really disappointed. Just a couple days ago, I had looked on eBay and was trying to get my hands on a couple of still sealed original pressings of Fit of Anger and Nothing to Fear. And I keep maybe that'll pop back up again. But so anyway, I digress. And then another tonight in 2014, they released a kind of a self-release, Stark Raving Mad. I haven't listened to a lot of this. Part of the reason I bought it was because the second track of the show tonight, Face to Face, is the leadoff track on this, and it sounded killer live. One thing I did not know though until I bought it and looked at the liner notes was that Gary Glowitzer did not appear on this record either. Scott Matrice, I think, maybe was the name of the guy that had vocal duty on this. What I've heard of it so far, I like it. And then that leads up to, like I said, their newest release that came in 2018, came out on the new Combat label, Rage. I think I read somewhere, an interview with the band, that some of the tracks had been written back in the early 90s, kind of after the Insane Society sessions had wrapped up. And you can kind of hear that, because when I first heard the record, stylistically the band does kind of, they go all over the place over the course of their 4 releases. And on Rage, I think if you listen to it, I really heard a lot of the first thing I thought was some of the songs sounded very prong-ish and had that kind of I don't want to say nu metal because it hadn't really hit, but that kind of sound that some of the more just the experimental alternative metal kind of sound was going for in 92, 93. So it sounds like some of those songs could have been written back there. But the leadoff track for Rage, Conflict, I think is a great tune. It's got a great riff, driving and thrashy and heavy. So the more I listen to that album, the more it does grow on me. And the songs live were fantastic. So again, show I picked up. Well, you'll be able to see this, but had to get some gear. There's the back of the shirt, and an alternative logo up front. I really like the band's logo. I've always thought it had a really cool looking logo, and then I like this shirt. It's got the different names of the albums and the circle around it. So, I always like to support bands, especially bands that have been at it. I mean, we're to almost 40 years that this band has been at it now, and I thought it was really cool in a small, basically shithole bar in Indianapolis to see 3/5 of the original lineup of a band that delivered product in the early mid 80s. So I think it's fantastic to see bands like that continue to thrive, and you know, the Chicago scene back in that day really produced some fantastic bands that never did quite reach the levels of success that they should have. And I'm sure most of the real metalheads out there, a lot of people point to a band that Snow White, which later kind of transformed into a Cyclone Temple, both headed up by a guy named Greg Fulton, who was a fantastic player and songwriter, and Snow White release, or Snow White is regarded as one of the classic underrated gems in the thrash genre, and I think Cyclone Temple is one of those two that never really got the recognition they deserved. Then also bands like Eatrope, which was some really good speed metal. You had Broken Hope was kind of starting to give rise back in that same time frame. So really, some really good Chicago bands that you can put in there. And then Wrath was one that, you know, really, much as I hate to say it, was kind of under my radar for a long time. Although I always knew I had those records in my collection, or those. I kind of don't regret, but I do wish now that I had kind of dug them out earlier. And yeah, I'll certainly be listening to them now. So I'm happy to have pretty much the entire collection now of their albums. And if you get a chance to see them, check them out. Hopefully they'll get some more exposure now that they've signed with Dave Ellefson's label. And yeah, really good band, really quality U.S. power metal. Check them out. Wrath. The new album is called Rage, and I think that's about it. So let them know your metal, bang your head, throw the goat. I'll see you next time.